All right, so this is another part to the engine casing. Pretty thin metal. It's a pretty thin metal. It looks like it has a paint coating on it. Has grease. It's also pretty thin, so we don't want to heat it up too much. As far as the size, this piece, roughly 11 inches by 9 inches. As far as the side, we're going to hit it with a 300-watt pulse laser, and then we're going to do the settings to grease to see if it takes off the layer, the paint, and we'll see how it does. On the grease settings, and there was a layer of paint on there, so it took it off. Looks like it was a green primer as well as the paint, and that's about how long it took to take that off. I'm going to adjust the settings and put it on paint. I'm going to see how it does in the same area. So a little bit warm to the touch, not too bad. Does seem like the paint setting took it off a little bit quicker, but also it looks like it hit it a little bit harder. So on the paint setting, looks like there's slightly a little bit more discoloration. Still took it to the metal, so the discoloration doesn't matter because we're painting over it. Then running with the paint setting where it pulls it off quicker is probably going to be the better option. Whereas when I was using the grease setting, there looks like there's less visual impact due to heat, versus the paint setting, which took it all the way down, but just left some color. It's just perfectly smooth down to the metal. But that was how you can kind of see the difference with changing the settings and what that does. Hey Rick, I don't know in these two pieces right here, but the left one we used a hotter setting, so there's a little bit more discoloration, and the one on the right we used the lower setting and it had less discoloration. But the question I have is, does that matter when you go to paint it or anything like that? It's really just, they're both really clean, but this one, if it'll show up, just has a little bit more discoloration in it than this one, which has a little bit more of a consistent metal, consistent look to it, with a little bit of a lower setting. We have another piece of the motor, and this is about 9 inches. It's a pretty solid, sturdy metal. Looks like it just has mainly rust, maybe some, but yeah, it looks like it's mainly just rust. 9 inches across, using a 300 watt pulse laser on oxide setting with a beam of 50 millimeter by 9 millimeter wave pattern for this go. Things you'll notice is that you might see a little bit of wave type things on the cleaning. First of all, that does not leave a profile, so it does not leave any type of profile on the metal. It's perfectly smooth. The other thing you can notice is that even after I cleaned it with the laser and went over it, it was still cool to the touch. So that's another, again, good perk of the pulse laser is unless you sit on it for a long period of time, it's typically not going to warm up the substrate at all, if very much. Now, if you sit on an area, of course it can, but you'll notice it got that rust right off. Took it right down to the metal. Nice, clean, look, ready to re-seal or paint, or whatever you need to do with it. All right, so just kind of recapping on this piece. Now, this piece, the top layer did come off very quickly, as well as the side layer and the flat interior. But then one of the parts that I didn't record because it's hard to get a good angle, but I did want to show you the result, was the fan blade part. And it will be a little bit hard just due to the lighting, but you'll see that there was some areas that I did not do. So these fan blades did not do these. They still have a lot of rust and just inside all the fan blades. But with the pulse laser, if we're able to see the surface with the laser, which pretty much could from either the outside or from coming back on the inside. If you're able to see it, you're able to get the laser. So whether it was the sidewalls, whether it was the front part, the back part, on these, we were able to go ahead and get that rust off and get it down to the metal. So that's even on the fan blade where it's, that'd be hard to get to with a any type of sanding tool. The laser, as long as it can get a line of sight on it, can go ahead and get that rust off and take it down to the metal. So just wanted to kind of show what this product looked like after that done. Again, you can see the fan blades that have been completed, and then the ones that are just still all rusty and haven't been touched, versus the ones that are now clean and ready to be painted if necessary, or just all that rust cleaned off. Okay, this piece is 4 1/4 inches. It's a fairly newer piece. Doesn't look like it's maybe even been used, but it has rust on it, so maybe it sat around for a while. I'm using a 300 watt pulse laser on the rust setting to take off this material. So it is all the way down to the metal. It's only slightly warm. Looks like there's just, so it's a smooth to the touch. So those different color patterns that you're seeing are more like stains in the metal, and they are not physically feelable as you rub against the metal. It's perfectly smooth. It's down to the metal. That's how quick it walked off that rust and grease. So this is an aluminum piece to a motor. It is roughly 10 inches long by 6 inches wide at the widest piece. This is being done with a 300 watt pulse laser, and we are going to go ahead and use paint settings as this aluminum has grease, dirt, and paint on it. Here's some just to be able to compare. So it took it all the way down to the metal. As you can even see, it's a pretty easy to read serial number now. You can kind of see what it did here. Just like kind of some comparisons down to the metal, and you can kind of see the layers of paint that were on there previously. Had a nice thick layer of paint. You can see around the edge here, it was very greasy. A nice thick layer of paint was on there, and then you can kind of see how clear and all the way down to the metal it took it. And again, so a couple of things. It's a pretty small piece. It does walk it off pretty quickly, but one of the things obviously is on an intricate piece like this, you do got to make sure you get all the different angles. So whether it's coming in here, hitting an angle like that, you know, from this side, from this direction, from this direction. Same thing with here. I'm not sure I hit it from this direction. Looks like there's some little, you know, some stuff under this lip right here. So again, just making sure you're hitting all the different angles is going to be important. It also was able to take it off the lid just fine. But yeah, so took it all the way down to the metal. It walked it off pretty quick. Again, the biggest time-taking piece is really going to be, you can see here where the laser was able to hit at certain angles, cleaned up all around this area that has paint and rust, or not rust, but grease. You can kind of see the paint. But again, you got to hit all the different angles. So that's the part that just can take a little bit of time, walks it off pretty quickly. Just got to make sure, and again, this is a pulse laser, so it does really well with both aluminum and paint.